Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Black Vibalist channel. I am the Black Vibalist, and I want to take a moment to thank all of our amazing subscribers for your continued support. You know, this is still a new channel, and I appreciate the support and your time. Thank you so much. If you're new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notifications so you don't miss out on any future videos. Today, we're diving into a very important topic, the sentiment among Black American men regarding Vice President Kamala Harris's bid for president. With the recent announcement that President Joe Biden has decided not to seek re-election for president, Vice President Harris has stepped up as the nominee. This is a significant development, but it's vital to understand the context and history that influences voter perception. To fully comprehend why some Black American men may feel hesitant to support Harris, we need to look back at her political career, particularly her tenure as district attorney of San Francisco and a general attorney for California. We're going to look back first at an incident during the debate in 2016, the presidential debate.
Harris confronting Vice President Biden at the last debate. You called it a, quote, false accusation that Joe Biden is a racist. What's your response?
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting Black and brown people all across this country today. Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Senator Harris, your response.
As the elected Attorney General of California, I did the work of significantly reforming the criminal justice system of a state of 40 million people, which became a national model for the work that needs to be done. And I am proud of that work. And I am proud of making a decision to not just give fancy speeches or be in a legislative body and give speeches on the floor, but actually doing the work of being in the position to use the power that I had to reform a system that is badly in need of reform. The bottom line is, Senator Harris, when you are in a position to make a difference and an impact in these people's lives, you did not. And worse yet, in the case of those who were on death row, innocent people, you actually blocked evidence from being revealed that would have freed them until you were forced to do so. There is no excuse for that. And the people who suffered under your reign as prosecutor, you owe them an apology.
Senator Harris.
My entire career, I have been personally opposed.
So that debate was in 2016. It was a presidential debate, and Kamala Harris and Gabbard, they both were running for president. But Representative Tulsi Gabbard brought up some controversial points during the debate. And since Kamala has not addressed those issues properly, they still linger with the Black men. One of the most significant accusations was Harris's role in the prosecution of over 1,500 Black and brown men on marijuana charges. This issue is far from trivial, as I know from my personal experience how a drug conviction could drastically impact one's job prospects and future. Now, this was a devastating impact on the Black communities because back in those days, the police would just roam in the Black community. And when he seen Black young boys or Black young men just driving in their cars or walking, the police would stop them illegally and search them. And if they found a nickel bag of marijuana, they will send them to jail. Now, I wouldn't have a problem if this happened to the white community, but it didn't. The police did not do this illegal searches and just stop white boys driving cars and search them illegally. They did not do this. And so a conviction for marijuana could mean the difference between getting gainful and meaningful employment or facing an uncertain future. Many feel that Harris's actions disproportionately impacted Black communities, making it hard for them to reconcile her past with her current progressive platform. One shout out and salute the art of dialogue. Go check out that brother. He's responsible for this video. Shout out to you. But I want to bring in a perspective from Dr. Umar Johnson, because in this video, he explicitly stated his dissatisfaction with Kamala Harris as a presidential candidate. And one of the main critiques centers around Harris's response when asked if the United States is a racist country. She publicly stated no, despite the numerous instances of police brutality and the ongoing systematic racism in this country. Dr. Umar emphasized that her denial of systematic racism and the struggles faced by Black Americans, especially in light of the various deaths at the hands of police and pervasive discrimination, felt dishonest and like she was saying whatever it took to please those in power. This is for many Black men, and this is how we feel. A lot of Black men joins in the same feelings as Dr. Umar expressed. And the broader Black community is significantly concerned. It undermines trust and raises questions about her authenticity and commitment to addressing these deeply rooted issues. Now, just here recently, July 6th, Sonia Macy, she called the police. It was actually a deputy, and she was killed. Now, tragically killed. Vice President Harris on Tuesday, she condemned the police killing of Sonia Massey, who was shot in the face by an officer earlier this month after she called 911 for help. Kamala stated, Vice President Harris stated, Sonia Massey deserved to be safe, and she called the police for help. She was tragically killed in her own home at the hands of a responding sworn officer to protect and serve. She stated, Doug and I send strength and prayers to Sonia's family and friends, and we join them in her grieving of this senseless death. Harris said this in a statement. Now, what she didn't state, though, what about a black hate bill? They passed it for the Asians. She did not mention at all about the need for a Black American hate crime bill. Now, I want you to listen to Dr. Umar's words personally, what he stated.
Speaking of Kamala, right? How do you feel about it? Because I know you made a comment earlier saying that she don't claim her black side.
House Nick, just like Barack Obama, they do what they need to do to stay close to the white power structure. She made a career locking up black people. This is the same woman who went on international television, Art, let me remind you, about a year or two ago and said America is not a racist country. You want me to go vote for a so-called black who went on international television and told the world that America is not a racist country? She spit in the face of the family of Trayvon Martin. She spit in the face of the family of Breonna Taylor. She spit in the face of the family of Michael Brown, Alton Sterling, Philando Castile, Mayor Locke, Tay. We can go on and on. Tamir Rice, all the Africans murdered by police, which are state-sanctioned executions. Let us be clear. The police are agents of the state. When the police kills a black person, that is a state-sponsored execution. And in response to all this racism, the execution of George Floyd, this part-time black woman says America is not racist. And when I say part-time, Art, I'm not poking fun at her because she's being mixed race. I want to be clear. I'm poking fun at her because she can rarely be found speaking up for black people. My issue ain't her being mixed race. Nobody's responsible for how they come into this world. My issue with her is not identifying with her people. I remember another interview I saw with Kamala Harris, Art, and she said, somebody asked her, what are y'all going to do for black people? And she said, we can't pass laws just for black people. She said this, we can't do things just for black people. Well, Kamala Harris, can I ask you a question, Madam Vice President? If the Democratic Party can't do anything just for black people, why did y'all pass a law only for Asians? Why did y'all pass a law only for Native Americans? Why did y'all pass a law only for transgenders? Why did y'all pass a law only for LGBTQs? Why did y'all pass a law only for immigrants? If you can't do anything just for black people, this is what she said, came out of her mouth. If you can't do anything just for black people, how was it possible for you and President Biden to do all these other things for specific ethnic groups in this country, some whose benefit no other group can take anything from? Complete contradiction. Kamala Harris is not for black people. But
I want to shout out and salute the Grio. They are responsible for developing this clip right here. But this is another pivotal moment came when Harris, then a senator, was interviewed by the Grio. She was asked if she would implement any programs specifically for Black people, considering the historical and ongoing impacts of slavery and racism. Harris's response was a clear no, stating she wouldn't do anything specifically for the Black community. This response has not sat well with many in the Black community, especially Black men. Many Black Americans feel that Harris's actions don't align with their needs. For example, Kamala Harris has strongly supported significant aid to Ukraine and U.S. providing billions of dollars in assistance, and she has shown strong backing for Israel. In fact, Israel, since its existence, the United States has spent over $400 billion in aid. And so while it's common in politics to support various groups, these actions appear disingenuous to some, as they seem a discrepancy between what she supports internationally versus what she's willing to do for her own Black constituencies in the United States. And this goes for the whole United States, all the Democrats and Republicans.
Support reparations for Black people. Well, listen, again, we had over 200 years of slavery. We had Jim Crow for almost a century. We had legalized discrimination and segregation, and now we have segregation and discrimination that is not legal but still exists and is a barrier to progress. We have disparities around housing. We have disparities around education. We have disparities around income. And we have to recognize that everybody did not start out on an equal footing in this country. And in particular, Black people have not. And so we have got to recognize that and do something about that and give folks a lift up. That's why, for example, I'm proposing the LIFT Act. Give people who are making $100,000 or less as a family a tax credit, which will benefit and uplift 60% of Black families who are in poverty. So by default, it affects Black families, but there's not a particular policy for African Americans that you would explore. But no, if you look at the reality of who will benefit from certain policies, when you take into account that they're not starting at the same place and they're not starting on equal footing, it will directly benefit Black children, Black families, Black homeowners, because the disparities are so significant. So if we focus on the specific issues that have resulted in the greatest disparities, and we understand that that's part of why we're doing it. Listen, the reality also is this: any policy that will benefit Black people will benefit all society. Let's be clear about that. Let's really be clear about that. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit Black people. No, whatever benefits that Black family will benefit that community and society as a whole and the country. Right?
So here we go. Black American men no longer blindly support Democratic candidates without tangibles. Now, let me give you some statistics here about disparities in legislation or legislative action. You see, 93% of Blacks voted for Obama in 2012. Now, that was down 2% in 2008. And so in 2008, Blacks, 95% of Black Americans voted for Obama in 2008. Now, there's going to be a problem here in 2024 because Kamala Harris needs Black men support to win the White House. Now, let's talk about the contrast between the swift passage of legislation addressing Asian hate crimes and the lack of specific measures for the Black community highlights a concerning disparity in what do you prioritize for your support? So we need to call for police accountability and equity. Addressing issues of police accountability, such as the need for proper Mirandizing, and that's giving you your Miranda rights procedures, doing stops to protect individuals' rights and ensure unfair treatment under the law, is essential in upholding justice for communities, especially the Black communities. Now, Biden sent his Solicitor General to the Supreme Court to argue to relax the Mirandizing procedures. And that, he always said, we are in threat of police stopping us. Well, he sent his Solicitor General to relax those protections that Black people and citizens had. Republicans and Democrats, they asked for the Black American support when it comes to election time, but they offer nothing specifically for our support, but they want us to vote. And so this equitable allocations of resources, I want to get an understanding of that. We're going to break that down. However, though, let's stay with these two parties for a second. Some Black men are going to vote for Trump, but it's not as many as the news reports. Some's going to vote for Trump, and some Black men are going to vote for Vice President Harris. Some. And there is an unknown quantity out there that Black Americans, and especially the Black American men, are not going to vote for neither Trump or Harris. Let's make that clear. Because understanding politics as the mechanism that determines who receives what, when, where, and how. Let me say that again. The definition of politics is the mechanism that determines who receives what, when, where, and how. It becomes imperative to reassess the distribution of resources and reparative measures, prioritizing the implementation of a comprehensive reparations package for the Black American community. Policymakers can begin to redress the long-standing injustices and disparities that persist in American society today. I want to talk about generational wealth for 1 minute. I'm going to go back to the Homestead Act of 1862. And what this act did, it accelerated the settlement of the Western Territory by granting adult heads, white European families, 160 acres of surveyed public land for a minimum filing fee, and all they had to do was live in it for 5 years of continuous residence. And millions from Europe came to the United States to take advantage of this Homestead Act. All they had to do was just go. Millions came from Europe and just put a stake in the ground, and it was given 160 acres. Now, we're going to talk about that generational wealth, but I want to compare. In 1865, Black Americans were free, and they were supposed to get 40 acres. But this is what happened. There was hundreds of thousands of Blacks, Americans, that lived in the South. And only 5,500 actually received 40 acres. And most of those acres were in swampland or very heavily wooded. So it wasn't good for agriculture. Now, let's talk about generational wealth. There were 26 million in the year 2000 that, when they did the census, stated that their generational wealth came from this act. This is Europeans that wasn't citizens of the United States. A lot of them couldn't even speak English. All they had to do was just come here. And 26 million in 2002 stated that their generational wealth was a result of this act, this Homestead Act. Now, let's talk about questioning the moral stance of United States, reflecting the ethical implications of seeking blessings for a nation whose foundation is rooted in slavery raises profound questions, because we want to say, God bless America. However, the foundation is rooted in slavery. So that is question. If Americans desire divine favor for the country, it necessitates a critical examination whether the nation has upheld its moral obligations to address historical wrongs and ensure injustice or justice for the Black American citizens, particularly those who become the brunt of centuries of slavery and oppression. Now, I hope that Vice President Harris is not wanting African Americans or the Black Americans that have ancestors that were slaves in the United States. I hope she's not withholding that, because, see, Kamala Harris would not qualify for reparations if it was passed. We are talking about Black Americans who live in the United States and their ancestors were slaves, and they can trace back their lineage. And Vice President Harris, her father was Jamaican and her mother was Indian. So she would not qualify. And I know some of them will say, oh, that's not right. That's right. Because the United States legally should not have to pay non-black people or black people that their lineage cannot be traced back to slavery, because that's what you have a moral obligation to pay. And so reflection in moving forward, it is crucial for individuals and policymakers alike to confront the uncomfortable truths of the past and actively work towards a more equitable and just future by advocating reparations and holding institutions, United States government, accountable for their role in perpetuating systematic inequalities. We can begin to heal the wounds of the past and pave the way for a more inclusive, compassionate society. Look, I want to thank you in closing. In conclusion, I thank you so much for staying with me and tuning in to the Black Bibalist News channel. I appreciate your support. If you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Until the next time, stay empowered, and I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Have a great day.